Good afternoon, everyone. Mesovorticies churning in the eye center. Yet another storm for Iceland. Another spinning tropical low off of Africa. Snow in Lebanon. Have you heard about the Locust Plague 1870 wiped out crops across the United States? And how dare I bring up the fourth year of record northern hemisphere snows when it was supposed to be a thing of the past. News headlines blaring, bailout package to cost $1 trillion. $2 trillion. 4 trillion. The Fed putting in the repo market $120 billion per night. Countries starting to hoard food with rationing, price controls, and domestic stockpiling. With this much inflation on the way, only one investment stands out: gold. Patriot Gold Group has no fee-for-life IRAs where your IRA or 401k can be in physical gold or silver. At Patriot, you work directly with an owner and avoid paying absurd broker fees. Call today or request a free investment kit. PatriotGoldGroup.com. The link's in the description box below. Could a locust plague of biblical proportions occur in the U.S.? And you might say, well, we haven't had any locust plagues like we see in Africa ever in the U.S. Oh, yes, we have. Maybe it was buried in the history books, not talked about in American farmers or American farming history too much. Jumping back to 1870, we're looking at locust plagues as vast as the ones encompassing the Middle East all the way over to India here in the United States. Now, these swarms are sweeping across the northern hemisphere, and maybe they're carried in the air currents, maybe not. But this video here, a plague of locusts, links in the description box below. You will be shocked that parts of American history you never learned about and how vulnerable we would be without pesticides and herbicides from China this year, because there are none. Now, the locust plagues continue across the Middle East, Central Asia, all the way into Harappa in the Indus Valley, cradle of civilization. And how will people in India fare locked indoors when insects ravage their crops? Nobody outside. It does pose a danger to millions, if not billions, of people who have mouths to feed. Now, the desert locust outbreak, quote unquote, extremely alarming, and you'll see where the swarms are moving. Red is where the densest populations are, and you'll notice that it's in the Fertile Crescent, it's in Harappa, it's in the cradles of civilization. We're talking Iraq, the Indus Valley. These places were once wet 4,000, 5,000 years ago. Now they're deserts, but they're becoming wetter again, indicating a multi-millennia shift in rain patterns. And case in point, Mesovorticies, if it's a new word in your vocabulary, not widely seen in storm formations. When they call it a spectacular metavortice in a monster North Atlantic cyclone with almost record low pressures, you might want to take a look at what that is. So I thought it would help you zoom in here. It's a cavitation in the atmosphere where there's other pockets of spinning formation within the larger storm itself. So think of it as a large cyclone, but inside there's other smaller cyclones or weather fronts and systems trying to form that are also themselves moving in circular patterns. Now with Iceland, this is the 14th cyclonic low this year, breaking all records going back into the 1820s as far as they have records so far. Once a storm passes, it should be the record-breaking number of storms to pass over this particular winter. That would make sense if we're going into a 400-year cycle. Their records only go back 200 years in terms of storms. This is a very unusual cavitation. It's almost like another eye center is forming within the eye center itself. Different glimpse here on the visible cloud. And you can see the disruption in the atmosphere. Something strange is happening in this storm. Weather commentators are looking at it, trying to explain it as if it's a normal thing, but it's not. Remember bombogenesis? They had to dust that off out of the weather almanacs from the 1950s and start using the word again. And now we're seeing multiple of those bombogenesis rolling up the East Coast every year, where they hadn't seen it in decades, if not half a century, and then they dusted off a single word. Well, Mesovortices will fall right into that category. And with this water vapor loop here, you can definitely see some low impressions off to the southwest there. But just the full setup of this storm, it is something unusual. And the cloud streets west of Greenland as well. This is the third time we've seen that this year. Originally, the first time they saw it, they're like, wow, this is unusual. And then we see it again. But look at the length and breadth and width of these cloud streets this time. I'd already done 2 videos on this prior. Although this year it's become common in the North Atlantic. Grand Solar Minimum intensification. Now jumping down, West Africa, Madeira, and that's off the bottom of that same system that I just showed you off of Iceland. So it's almost cavitating into a figure 8, if you will. The bottom of the storm right here, heading toward North Africa, the top of the storm. And then lo and behold, fresh snows in Lebanon. This takes us back to March 20th. Had a chance to drop this in on the story here. Unusual to have snow in the Middle East at this time of the year anyway, but then deep accumulations covering an entire mountain and on these forests here. Weather forecasters trying to explain this one away somehow, way, shape, or form, but they just simply can't. They just put it down as anomalous, and we'll move on from here. Record snows again in the Northern Hemisphere. Since we are coming into the decline here at the end of March, you'll see the snowfall tapering off, but where did we go in February? Oh, to all-time record highs again. How far is that out of the 2 standard deviations for the 4th year in a row? Nobody wants to talk about this. They're going to have to start changing the scale on this to bring up 2 standard deviations within what we just saw over the last 4 years. Snow is supposed to be a thing of the past. Yet we're having eclipsing, yet eclipsing, yet eclipsing, yet this year eclipsed last year's highs again. Snow will be a thing of the past, and now we're into all-time record snow. I mean, that's a complete 180, and I'd like a better explanation than evaporating oceans, because it didn't happen in the 1990s with evaporating oceans. Grand solar minimum could be, but wherever you look, there's strangeness across the planet. How prepared are you for emergencies? My Patriot supply, an Adapt 2030, the 2-week grab-and-go food crate, or the 4-week food supply. If you do order, they will get it to you. Expect delays, but when it does come, you have something to put your mind at ease that you would be ready for different emergencies, because nations across the globe keeping food within their borders, not wanting to export anymore, is just another reason for you to get. In case there's a breakdown in supply chains, you can keep your family and yourself safe through these changes. The link's in the description box below, and it's another way to support the Adapt 2030 channel. I'm David Dubine, creator of the Adapt 2030 channel and many Ice Age Conversations podcast. I will see you next video.